Steve, can I cancel this purchase? If I sign now, am I stuck buying the house, or is there a way for me to get out of the contract if I no longer want to buy the house? So this is a question that we get a lot, and so I figured I would put together a video so buyers understand what their options are after they go into contract on a house. This is Steve Davidson. I'm with the Davidson Real Estate Group at Simply Vegas. So one of the reasons I put this together is because I remember back to the first time I bought a house, and I was nervous as can be. This is, over 2 decades ago. And I almost panicked when they were saying, okay, let's go to contract. And I said, whoa, what? I didn't really understand everything. So I panicked. I called a quick timeout. I said, hey, I had to go get something to eat. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm nervous. So we left, and of all places, we went to Dairy Queen to eat, had lunch at Dairy Queen, asked a few questions. So I felt more comfortable with what I was getting into. Then I was happy to go back to the office and put together a contract. So remembering that, I always want to make sure that my clients don't have that same fear. Of course, people are nervous when they buy a house. However, I want to make sure that you understand the basic process when you go to buy. And this video is actually good for sellers as well, so they know what to expect when they put their house up for sale and a buyer's going through the buying process. So here is one other thing I just want to mention. When you buy a new house versus buying a resale house, the processes are very different. So this video is more going to be about buying a resale property than it is, buying a new home. There are some contingencies with new homes, but things are very different. So this is geared towards resale. Second thing is every contract, every home purchase is different. So the time frames, whether or not you have all these contingencies, there may be more contingencies. And of course, there's other parts of the contract as well that we're not going to cover. What we want to do is just cover the basic back out options for most buyers in most contracts. So here are the 4 ways in which a buyer can typically cancel a contract. So the first one is the inspection and due diligence period. The second one is the appraisal contingency. Third one is loan contingency. And number 4 is the HOA. So I'm going to go over each one of these real briefly. So the first one, the inspection period and due diligence period. All of these timeframes start on day 1. So typically this time frame for the inspections and due diligence is about 10 to 12 days long. So what that means is in this time frame, buyers can order any inspections they want to do. They pay for the inspections. And so as the inspections come in, the buyers are getting an idea of the overall condition of the property. And then they can sit down. We go over it with them as agents, and we talk about, hey, do you want to ask for some repairs? Do you want to ask for some credit so you can take care of the repairs later? Or is this too much? Do you want to back out of the contract? So every deal is different. So, what happens after the inspections are done can be very different. Normally we're able to work things out though. Now in this time frame, that same 10 to 12 days, the buyers also have a due diligence opportunity to look around the neighborhood, check the area, look at the house, and just change their mind really for any reason that they want. So this is a great time frame. So, if a buyer's like, I signed the dotted line today, they wake up in a panic in the middle of the night and like, oh my gosh, I have to cancel. They are free to cancel even if they haven't done the inspections. All right. So number 2 is the appraisal contingency. So anytime you negotiate a contract, part of the negotiations is the purchase price. So what the appraisal contingency does is it normally gives you about 20 days to get an appraisal done. Now, this is only if you're buying a property getting a loan. So if you're purchasing cash, you typically won't have an appraisal contingency. But if you are purchasing with a loan, the lender will order the appraisal. Now, as long as you do get the appraisal back in the time frame that we're given for the appraisal contingency, if the value comes in lower than the purchase price, then the buyer is able to go and renegotiate with the seller. Now, one thing to note is the seller does not have to agree to this. However, the buyer and the sellers typically can come up to some sort of an agreement. If they can't, and the seller's like, nope, we're keeping the price the same, buyer's like, I'm not paying more than the appraisal, and they can't come up with something in the middle, the buyer is free to cancel the contract. Sometimes in the appraisal, there are also some condition issues that pop up, same sort of thing. If the appraiser says, hey, this or this item needs to be fixed in a house, same thing applies. They can renegotiate. And if it all works out, we move forward. If it doesn't, the buyer can cancel. So number 3 is the loan contingency. So what that means is usually about 25, 30-day long contingency period. And as soon as you get the contract, we send everything over to the lender, and the lender starts doing what they do, including order the appraisal. And as they're going along, if something happens to where the lender's like, hey, we can't get this loan done. So at that point, the buyer can cancel per the contract, as long as they do it in that time frame. So that gives the buyer some freedom to cancel in case things change, in case somebody loses a job, in case income is different, in case the lender thought they were making a certain amount of money, or whatever reason. If the lender can't get the loan done, buyer's able to get out of the contract. And in the end, the last one, number 4, is the HOA resale package. So if the property you're buying or selling does not have like an HOA, homeowners association, then this doesn't apply. But a lot of properties in Vegas, they do have HOAs, and some properties have 2 or 3. So once we go into contract, the seller orders an HOA resale package. So what this includes is the rules, regulations, fees, things like that go into the HOA. Buyer gets that usually after the seller orders it in about 10 days. And once the buyers get it, they have about 5 days to review. Well, now about 5. They get 5 days to review the HOA rules, regulations, and decide whether or not they're willing to accept all the rules and regulations that each homeowner has to accept, and if they're willing to pay the fees. Now, once they get that, they want to cancel within the 4th day, they can. After 5 days, that contingency expires. So hopefully this helps, gives you a good idea about what the process is for buying. Of course, there's a bunch more details in the contract, but if you're like me and you're like, oh my gosh, am I signing that I have to buy this house no matter what? The answer is no. There's typically going to be some contingencies in there. So hopefully this video helped you out. Again, I'm Steve Davidson, Davidson Real Estate Group at Simply Vegas. Go ahead and follow us and subscribe on YouTube and check for more great videos.